What's going on, my fellow deplorables? Welcome back to the channel. We got a town hall we're going to be covering live today with Trump and Fox News. I think Sean Hannity is going to be doing the town hall. I haven't watched, I'll be honest, I have not watched 1 second of Fox News since they fired Tucker, but the Trumpster himself is going to be on tonight doing a live town hall setting, so I will turn on Fox News and we'll be doing a live reaction to that town hall as debate season, I guess not debate, but primary season is heating up, and we have everybody running to the early primary states. DeSantis was in Iowa today, Trump in Iowa. I'm sure the other candidates are in Iowa. Pence is going to be making his presidential campaign announcement public in Iowa next week. So everybody's running to these early states like Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. I'm not sure why Pence is jumping in the race, but let's take a quick look at the early polling data. Trump is clearly running away so far. DeSantis is kind of pandering, just following down. We have Pence and Haley down under 10%. And to be quite honest, I am a little bit conflicted with DeSantis. I'm going to be voting for Trump, no question about it. DeSantis would really have to do something crazy, or Trump would have to do something crazy to change my mind. Right now, it's a 99.999% chance that I'll be voting for Trump. And if we look at the odds of historical data is telling us that DeSantis has like a 2% chance to win this primary. So it's very confusing to me why he's getting in the race. Is it a money grab? Is it a grift? Is it because he thinks that if he doesn't get in the race that he's missing his opportunity? What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. What do you guys think is the reason that DeSantis is getting in this race? It just doesn't make any sense to me, because look at this historical data. Trump right now is polling at about 55% average. When you congregate all the polling data together, he's polling at about 55%. Okay, so historically, that tells us that he has about a 90% chance of winning this primary. So it's almost locked up. So why does DeSantis get in? Why does he piss off the MAGA base? Why does he piss off the populist America First base by getting in? And the answer to me to that question is probably money. You know, he's got the big billionaire backers. The globalist money is pouring in on his into his campaign. And we have, this is just a perfect summation of, if I was Donald Trump, the only thing I would do, I wouldn't have to say anything knocking DeSantis's policies in Florida. I would just play this one campaign ad. There's
Donald
no
Trump
reason
has
to say
done a
anything
better
else.
job of appointing judges, both on the Supreme Court and the courts of appeal, than any Republican president in modern times. Donald Trump wrote The Art of the Deal. He knows how to negotiate. He's a master negotiator. Trump instinctively is tough on China. The strong horse is who they respect. The president's a strong horse. In Donald Trump's credit, nobody else was really willing to talk about that until he came on the scene. And he's leading with purpose and with conviction. And President Trump has followed through on that. Donald Trump's gotten a heck of a lot done. I think President Trump kept his word. Other presidents have promised it, and they reneged on their promise. He kept his promise, but he said, we are going to deal with this one way or another. Just think of how big a mess this president inherited from Barack Obama. Yes, North Korea, Iran, ISIS caliphate, China on the move, Russia on the move, Syria in disarray. He inherited all of that. We've made a remarkable turnaround, and I think he deserves credit. I'm not sure the Washington Post will ever give him credit. They hate Trump. They hate people associated with him, and they let that show time and time again. It's really, really troubling. Now, look, they're not going to.
If I was Trump, I would not attack DeSantis's policies. I wouldn't go after the job he's doing. I would just play those ads. I would play him in Iowa. I'd play him in New Hampshire, play him in South Carolina, or the commercial that he ran for his campaign with his kids building the wall and wearing the MAGA onesie. All you got to do if you're Trump is play those ads in the early primary states, and DeSantis is finished. DeSantis's only hope is to do well early in Iowa. If he doesn't do good in Iowa, he's dead. Let's take a look and see if we've got commercials going. So what are you guys thinking this primary? Let me know in the chat. Who do you think is going to win the GOP Republican primary? Is Trump got it locked up, or does DeSantis or Pence or another candidate polling low right now have a chance to make a comeback? I think Trump's got it pretty well locked up. If you look at these polling numbers, he's climbed substantially. Here we go.
Lori Lightfoot, a professor. So students can learn from a failed mayor as well as esteemed faculty members such as Brian Stelter and Warren Willem Jr.
We got about 5 minutes.
Bill de Blasio.
Did you guys see this?
Here are some highlights from Lightfoot's resume.
I'm the public face of this city. I'm on national media, and I'm out in the public.
Did you guys see this video? It's actually kind of sad. It's getting sad. Biden's mental capacity is just so diminished. He's literally got a neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's, maybe ALS. He's got something going on. Giving a commencement speech at the Naval Academy or the Air Force Academy, one of the academies today, and he took a spill. It's not funny, but it's hard not to laugh. It's really not that funny, but it's hard not to laugh. That is the president of the United States falling flat on his face, looking like an idiot. And Jill is the one who should really be ashamed of herself, putting him up there, propping him up there. You know they're giving him some type of amphetamine or some type of drug to keep him going because he cannot be up and moving around for 12 hours a day. You know his aides are really running the show, and it's kind of scary to know that there's probably some 21-year-old kid who's calling the shots, who's actually the president of the United States, because that man right there is not calling any shots. The only shot he's calling is taking his laxatives in the morning so he can squeeze his morning deuce out and then trying to get through the day. He is not making any serious decisions. That is a joke. That dude just fell down looking like a guy in a nursing home. If you put Joe Biden in a white t-shirt, right, and old man clothes, old man pants, you put the long white socks on top of the sweatpants and a white t-shirt, and you watched him shuffle around a nursing home, and you told somebody who didn't know who the president of the United States was, go inside this nursing home and pick out the president. Typically, that'd probably be an easy job historically. But with Joe Biden, you would not be able to figure out who the hell the president was. Joe Biden is a freaking Alzheimer's patient, and it's sad. Whoever the GOP candidate is that comes out, who wins this primary, will beat Biden. I'm pretty confident, pretty sure of that, but it's going to be a vicious fight. All right, I don't want to watch this shit. I hate watching Fox News after they fired Tucker. I haven't turned it on. Time is it? We got 2 minutes. 2 minutes until the town hall.
Do you remember him? Under Bill de Blasio, the most popular restaurant chain is now called Space for Rent. You know, the one thing about everybody who visits New York, and people watching at home need to know this, we don't actually have a lot of joggers here. People who visit New York go, wow, you guys have a lot of joggers. I'm like, no, they're being chased. These people are running for their lives. If you're not from here, you think they're joggers. If you're from here, you're like, yeah, nobody goes jogging in a suit with a briefcase under their arm. They're running. But that's what happened.
You know, you've got a handsome young man by his size. He might play football for the University of Georgia one day. But if he has to go to college and pay for it, would you send him to Harvard?
Oh, the link man?
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. No, why not? Because my son is 6'5". He's going to Duke on a women's basketball scholarship. I am gaming this system, baby. No chance. But you can go get a class from Stelter, too. Stelter is teaching at Harvard.
You know, what do you think, Stelter? What's the subject there?
It's how to get a job as a before model. You get the guy on the left side of the screen before the Nutrisystem or whatever the heck it is kicked in. But again, like Harvard, this is why nobody takes you seriously. Colleges have gotten too arrogant. Okay, they've always charged too much. It was common.
Yeah, Junior, I agree. Fox has gone completely woke since firing Tucker since really the 2020 election, calling Arizona too soon. But Trump's doing a town hall. I'll watch it tonight. I haven't been watching it at all. The DEI initiative that Fox News, it leaked from Fox News. They're requiring transgender individuals to be allowed to use the women's restroom. They have gone completely woke. It is a mask. It is CNN with a conservative mask.
Term. I think a lot of people would consider it the face of Beetlejuice, but I'm not going to get into Michael Keaton spinoffs right now.
Team sport. Who's going to be in the World Series? Braves against who?
Well, it's going to be the Yankees.
Okay.
You want to know what? But we can never underestimate the Phillies. Why, Johnny Joe?
I
you
don't
know
want to
this.
hear it. It's going to be the Braves.
Well, okay.
Jimmy Fallon, thanks for joining us, brother. Listen, join us back here tomorrow for the show where we won't.
Is this who they replaced Tucker with?
Challenge those that do. Have a great evening. Sean Hannity is next with Donald Trump for the exclusive.
Is this guy who they replaced Tucker with? That's a downgrade there. Jesus Christ.
And welcome to Hannity. And tonight we are in beautiful Clive, Iowa, right outside of Des Moines. We have a massive, incredible, enthusiastic audience tonight. And in a few short moments, well, the very first 2024 presidential caucus will take place right here in Iowa, unlike the Democratic Party. But in just a moment, the leading presidential candidate for the Republicans, Donald J. Trump, will be with us for the full hour. By the way, unlike fake news CNN, it's not my job to sit here and debate the candidate. We're going to ask him about the issues of the day that actually matter to the people that came out here tonight in the rain and thunder and lightning, the voters, and they will also have their questions as well. Nothing is off the table. And as of now, Trump is not only beating his Republican rivals, but he's also beating President Biden. Real Clear Politics average. Trump is up in a head-to-head matchup there. In the most recent Harvard-Harris poll, has him up by 7 points over Joe Biden. The vast majority of Americans, including Democrats, they're not happy with Joe Biden. I don't think many Americans are happy with Joe Biden, to say the least. And based on recent polls, voters believe that Biden is corrupt, incompetent, creepy, both mentally, physically, cognitively unfit to serve. By the way, today was no exception. At the Air Force Academy, Biden could not remember the word pilot or fighter pilot. Take a look.
By the way, I met with who are those guys that fly over shortly? You heard of them, haven't you? 3 of them are women. So don't screw around, guys.
All right, got much worse from there. And by the way, viewer warning, this is kind of hard to watch. But following those remarks, well, Biden fell flat on his face and took another tumble and fall. Take a look.
Sleepy, what happened?
Wing, 10 shot. Mr. President, thank you for joining us.
The Air Force cadets who were graduating were trying not to laugh in the back, but they were giggling. You could see him giggling when he fell.
In this country about his physical fitness, his mental acumen, his ability to serve. The presidency is the toughest job on earth. It requires, well, a tough, capable leader. And you might recall 2024, and we talked about this in past election years, the American people, they will now have a critical opportunity to right the ship that begins right here in the great state of Iowa. Let's give a warm Iowa welcome. Joining us now for the hour, the 45th President of the United States, current GOP presidential candidate, frontrunner Donald Trump.
That's a nice group.
Nice group. How are you?
you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow.
By the way, they all came out. It was raining cats and dogs today.
It was a little nasty out, but it's Iowa. It's a beautiful place. When it rains, it's beautiful. We've really been loved in Iowa, and I love Iowa. We won both times by a lot.
Yeah.
So we're very happy.
You're up in the polls here. I want to start with the current president. Did you see the video of when he fell?
Yeah.
And did you see the video? He actually said, by the way, I met with, who are those guys that are going to fly over shortly?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your president right now.
Not too good. It's sad. It's sad. It's not, you know, it's, they're representing, we are all representing the country. You become president, and you're sort of not allowed to do that, but it's happened. It's happened, and it's happened pretty badly. We won't go into it, but we all know the ones, and they count those acts, you know, they never forget. But that was a bad fall.
You know, I remember remember the media made so much. I think you were at West Point at the time.
Yeah.
And you were coming down a ramp.
Yeah.
It didn't have a rail. You had dress shoes on like you have now,
Yeah.
which have very slippery soles.
Correct. They look a little better, but you better not walk in rain. That's true.
Especially downhill on a ramp.
You know, it was very interesting. I think I made my best speech. That was my best speech. And I was so proud of it. It was pouring. It was pouring. And I said, this speech was so good. And then I said, how do I get down? Sir, you have to go down the ramp. I said, the same when I came up, it was a long, like an ice skating rink. And they said, yes, sir. And I had the general next to me, the commandant of cadets, nice guy, big guy, strong guy. I said, General, and he's wearing combat boots. They don't slip too much. I said, General, get ready, because I may have to grab you here. But I said, I'm not falling. There's no way. So I'd go tippy-toe down the thing. That was a mistake, because it didn't look so good. I even agree it was. But I got killed, and they never covered that speech. I said, it was my best. Someday they'll, in 100 years, they're going to put that speech on. I really, but you can't fall. You just can't fall, no matter what. Just can't allow it to happen. And I better not allow, especially after saying this, I better not allow it to happen with me. But things like that do happen.
So in past interviews that we've had together, and we've had many over the years,
yeah.
I have asked you repeatedly about what you think about Joe Biden's cognitive state. I've asked you about, is he up to the job physically, mentally? You have been very reluctant to go there. I'm not reluctant. To me, does everyone agree with me that this guy's cognitively not there? I doubt he knows what day of the week it is today. That's how bad I think it's gotten for him. Why are you reluctant to call that out?
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. I actually called Sean, and I asked Sean not to joke about it.
I was joking
because he used to joke about it. And I said, honestly, I don't think it looks good for you or for anybody for you to joke about it, because it's a serious problem.
I was talking about sippy cup and warm milky at night and bedtime stories. Yeah.
So I said,
got
I just don't
Alzheimer's.
think it's good for anybody. And, you know, it's not appropriate. You can speak about it if you want, but I don't think you should joke about it. And you really didn't after that.
Well, now I realize how serious it is. I mean, especially, and we'll get into foreign policy, and, you know, with China, Russia, and Iran forming, I'm calling it a new axis of evil.
Yeah.
I'm very, very concerned that he's abdicated our role on the world stage. Let me start.
I do say this. I think it's the most serious time and the most dangerous time right now in the history of our country. We have nuclear weapons on lots of different areas. We have Russia, we have North Korea, we have Iran is going to soon have one. That should have never happened. I had that set up. We would have made that deal within a week after the election, and they would have never had a nuclear weapon. But nobody picked it up because I terminated the Iran nuclear deal. But this is the most dangerous time in the history of our country because of the power of the weaponry. And we have somebody that doesn't understand what's happening. And it's a very dangerous thing. It's a very bad thing. I mean, some really bad things. If you would see, and I got to see it, if you would see the power of what we're talking about, this isn't army tanks going back and forth shooting at each other. This is something that's a whole different place. This is annihilation of the world, literally. The power is so horrible. And I was actually working on something with Putin where we start getting rid of nuclear weapons. It's just too powerful. And You know, all of a sudden, people are talking about nuclear weapons all the time. I wouldn't let people talk about it. I had somebody come down from MIT. I was talking about that. My uncle was a great professor for many years at MIT, and I had somebody come down, and I say, what would you say, like, during the debate about nuclear weapons? He looked at me and said, sir, don't talk about them. I said, why? He said, there's nothing you can say. It's so powerful. It's so extraordinary. The best thing you can do is not talk about them. Now they're talking about them all the time. That's all they talk about. In fact, I guess Putin announced the other day he's moving nuclear weapons to Belarus. So this is a very dangerous time for our country, but it's a very dangerous time for the whole world.
You end your rally speeches now with music in the background, and you start with, "We are a nation in decline." And this is a very different America than what it was when you left it as president 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I can point to the border. I can look at laws all over the country, defund, dismantle, no bail laws. We've given up energy independence. We're importing oil from Venezuela and OPEC. And right, who would have believed that? And we now see 2/3 of our country are living paycheck to paycheck. You see some people now cashing in their retirement just so they can make ends meet. Others are putting, bare necessities on credit cards. I'll mention this in Iowa because I have, a radio show with 720 stations. Farmers call me. The cost of fertilizer is 3 times what it used to be. The cost of seed is twice what it used to be. And if you can get the parts to repair your equipment, it's 4 times what it used to be. I've never seen it this bad or this decline this precipitously.
So we were energy independent. Think of it, 3 years ago. And what people don't know is that we have, I call it liquid gold, because it's gold, it's better than gold. We have liquid gold under our feet more than any other nation, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia. We're energy independent. Within 6 months, we would have been energy dominant. And we were going to sell energy to Europe and lots of other places. And we were going to make so much money doing it because it's such a big world. It's such a big business. It's all encompassing. And that's what started the inflation. I mean, the energy, we stopped drilling and all of a sudden gasoline's going up to $5, $6 a gallon in a car, and just horrible things were happening. And it happened. But we were going to pay off debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. We gave you the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, bigger than the Ronald Reagan tax cut. And the biggest, and I think more importantly, Sean, we gave you the biggest regulation cuts. That's why we had more jobs than we ever had before. We've never had anything close. And we did all of that. And then to end that, but we were going to pay off debt. We were going to get the debt because the money is so big. It's so massive. You look at Saudi Arabia, the money they have, no nation's ever had anything like it. And we have more than they have. We were going to pay off debt. We were going to get the energy prices down. We were going to get interest rates down. It was like we had something going and within 6 months, we would have been dominant because we would have taken over Europe. We would have literally been supplying the energy to Europe. And we would have made a fortune. We would have paid down the debt. We would have cut the taxes. It was going to be so beautiful.
Let me focus on the issues that I think bread and butter issues that impact everybody. I want to know, if you get elected president, how fast you're going to be able to fix our borders, bring us back to energy independence, how quickly you might be able to work to change the school system, bring back law and order and safety and security to this country, and every town and every city, because I think people need that if they want to pursue happiness. How quickly can you shift gears and move this country?
Okay. I think very quickly. Let me just say, so I heard DeSantis saying, oh, well, I get 8 years, I get 8 years, he gets 4. You don't need 4 and you don't need 8. You need 6 months. Within 6 months, I said, within 6 months, this can be done. Other than, you don't need 8 years. And frankly, I wouldn't vote for him because he said, you need 8 years, you need 6 months. We're going to drill. We're going to get our energy down. When the energy comes down, other things come down. And we're going to take care of things. We're going to immediately close up the border. We had the greatest border. We had the safest border in the history of our country. Now we have the worst border in the history of the world. There's no, and I say this during rallies. We love our rallies. But I say it during, there's never been a third world country that allowed people to pour into a country. They'd stand there with sticks and stones if they had to. What's happening to our country, But in terms of doing it, you don't need 8 years and you don't need 4 years. We can have a lot of it done because these guys are amazing. The oil guys, they will be. In fact, I had it so low that we had to raise it or they would have all been out of business. We had so much oil, we didn't know what to do with it. We bought a lot of it for very little for the strategic national reserves that he then took to keep the prices down before an election. You know, we had the strategic national reserves almost full. And then Biden came along and took it to keep prices down. It's called artificially down. And the thing is almost empty now. And that's meant for times of war. It's not meant to keep a price down for an automobile. It's meant for war, for real problems. And we had it 75, think of it, 75 million barrels. And I bought it for peanuts. And Congress, I had to fight Congress. And the pricing was so crazy and so good. And we needed a place because we had so much. So we started filling up. This guy comes along and he takes it for automobiles, for people so they, before the election, so the price could keep down. Now it's totally empty. It's the emptiest I think it's been in 50 years.
Down 48%.
And it's so sad. And by the way, the price is still very high.
I don't think gas went over $3 a gallon, if I'm not mistaken, when you were president as an average.
We had it down to $1.87. We actually had a little period of time where we had it lower than that. But the energy companies, the oil companies weren't going to last. I had said, wait a minute, I love it in one way, but in another way, they're all going to go bust. We got to get it up a little bit. But we had it down to $1.87. But we had a period of time where it was much lower than that. It was too low, actually.
So we have.
That's a good problem, by the way. That's a much better problem than it's at $6 and $7 and $8 and $9.
All right, so we have this new, I call it a new axis of evil.
Yeah.
You have China aligned with Russia, aligned with Iran. Let's start with China. Here you have a Chinese spy balloon. There are no consequences. Here you have, just this week, a Chinese simulator that takes out all of our warships in the Pacific and the China Sea.
Very sophisticated.
You have a confrontation with a fighter jet of China with our fighter jet. They come, within 400 feet or whatever it was. Joe Biden's defense secretary wants to meet with their defense secretary, and they basically give Joe Biden the middle finger and say no. And you see that there's a growing Cold War with China, who's aligned with two other hostile regimes. And I got to believe that's not a good situation for America right now because, you know, Putin seems to have no qualms about taking down a drone out of the sky. No consequences for him, no consequences for China. What would you do?
So we had a great thing with China and until COVID came in, then I didn't even want to deal with them. But I had a great relationship with President Xi, but I was charging them tariffs. And if I didn't do it, because they were dumping steel like nobody's ever seen anything like it before, destroying our steel mills and our steel plants. And I put on a 50% tariff. And all of a sudden, our steel industry was doing good. I did it for washing machines. I did it for dryers. I did it for a lot of things because they were destroying a lot of our businesses. But we were taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. And we're in Iowa. I gave the farmers $28 billion. You know that, $28 billion. And in one of my moments, I said, there's no way I lose Iowa. I gave the farmers $28 billion from China. I took $28 billion. I asked Sonny Perdue, who was the Secretary of Agriculture, and a very good guy. I said, Sonny, how badly have our farmers been hurt by what China was doing? They were killing our farmers, right? Just killing them. He said about $28 billion. I said, that's okay. And I had $28 billion worth of checks written out to all of the farmers of our country. And I said, there's no way I'm going to lose this state. And there's no way I'm losing Nebraska and some other ones. But I've had more people thanking me for that. But think of it. I took $28 billion from China and gave it to our farmers. Nobody else would do that. Nobody else.
Vladimir Putin, you have said repeatedly in interviews that if you were president, he never would have went into Ukraine.
Would have never.
How do you say that? And then you also have said that if you're president, you can end this very quickly.
Yeah, I'd say if I'm president, and by the way, this is a much worse position than before it started. Before it started, it was easy. He wasn't going to do it, and I had conversations. And it was always the apple of his eye. I mean, I could see that. But I said, you're not going to do it. And if you do it, we're going to have problems like you've never had before. He understood. I said things. He said, you don't mean that. I said, I mean it 100%. And he didn't totally believe me, but he believed me 10%, and that's all he had to do. He knew that there was going to be a problem.
Can I just say,
and President Xi,
you're implying something here. You basically said I'd obliterate you. Is that what you said to him?
I said things that were very bad, very nasty. And
kind of like what?
And honestly, I got along. And he said, "You don't mean that." It had to do with Moscow. He said, "You don't mean that." I said, "I do. I'll never talk about it again, but I do." He said, "You don't mean it. You don't mean it." And we then went on to other subjects. But I don't think he believed me, but he believed me 10%. That's all he had to believe me. 5% would be good enough. But I had the same conversation with President Xi about Taiwan, President Xi of China. I said, President, don't do it with Taiwan. Don't even think about doing it with Taiwan. He was never going to do it. And now he's circling, ships are circling, planes are flying over the top. 28 bombers last week went right over the middle of it. A lot of stuff going on. And a lot of this has to do also with the fact that we were so incompetent in the way we left Afghanistan. It was so, I think it was the most embarrassing and most incompetent moment in the history of our country. And I think both of them looked at that and they said, wow, this is not the same country that we know. We rebuilt our military. I rebuilt the military. New jets, new everything. We had everything. And they gave away $85 billion worth of the best equipment in the world. Nobody can even believe it. The biggest, they're the biggest seller of equipment. They're the biggest, right after us, Afghanistan. Can you imagine? Afghanistan is one of the biggest arms merchants in the world because they don't need 700,000 guns and rifles, 70,000 armor-plated trucks and different things, but millions of dollars for some of them. 700,000 arms, think of it, rifles, 70,000 trucks. There's not a used car lot in all of Iowa or in all of the country probably that has more than 500. These people had 70,000, and some of these are, a big, heavy armor-plated stuff for the roadside bombs. Soleimani, Soleimani was not good. That situation was taken care of. And al-Baghdadi was not good, and that situation was taken care of. But we did a lot. Our military is great. A lot of things going on with our military, with the woke and all this nonsense. They're not learning to fight and protect us from some very bad people. They want to go woke. They want to go woke. That's all they talk about now. I see letters that are being sent. It's horrible. It's really a serious problem. That would end immediately. But when you look at what we did, right. we rebuilt our military. We added Space Force. Everyone said, oh, Space Force, what is that all about? When they came in, Biden wanted to end it. He said, what is this, a game? It's going to turn out to be one of the most important. It hasn't happened since Air Force 78 years ago. And it's unbelievable now. China and Russia were taking over space, and now we're leading in space because of Space Force. It was a very important move.
We got to take a break. More with former President Donald Trump. We'll ask him about the growing GOP field, the weaponization of our justice system, and so much more. We are in beautiful Clive, Iowa, outside of Des Moines. Thank you for being with us. Our town hall and questions from the audience straight ahead.
Hannity's trying to kiss Trump's ass because he knows Fox News is in trouble after firing Tucker. They've lost 30% of their late night viewers. They're in big trouble. Newsmax is catching up. It's a bad day when Newsmax is catching up, but I like Newsmax. Not taking a hit at Newsmax. I'm just saying Fox News is in trouble. How do you guys think the Trumpster's doing? Looks good. Got a fresh spray tan. Got the hair nice and dyed. Got the comb over going, looking good up there. Definitely looking better than Joe was looking today at that Academy commencement speech. Yeah, Hannity's definitely politer than Caitlin Collins was. That's for sure. But that's not much. That's not saying much. Justin, you must be from Pennsylvania. Fetterman? Fetterman is definitely a vegetable. I think he got elected, though, in large part due to early voting. You know, people didn't know how bad he was, how bad off he was. Can't even speak. The dude can't even speak, and he's a U.S. senator. Being a U.S. senator is one of the most powerful jobs in the world. And dude cannot even have a coherent thought process. Yeah, Pennsylvania. Who is Pennsylvania's second senator? Fetterman and who else? Bob Casey. I don't think Bob Casey's up for re-election in 24, is he? It'll have to be in 2026. I'd be surprised. I hate to say it, but I'd be surprised if Fetterman makes it to 2026. Or he would be up for re-election, and yeah. So they'll have Cartwright. Is it Cartwright? No. Bob Casey. John Fetterman and Bob Casey. Oh, he stepped down because he has cancer? Is that right? So both of Pennsylvania's senators are very, very ill. Check out this video Trump Jr. just posted to Twitter.
I would defer to people like Dr. Fauci. I think Dr. Fauci has said nationwide you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks of where we're really going to be having to dig in here. But I think it's dynamic, and I think the more success you have up front, probably maybe the less time it'll end up being in this. But it's an evolving situation. I would say cutting off the flights from Europe and then adding Ireland and Great Britain, I think is a benefit right now for Florida, because we had a number of cases from Ireland recently, and to not have it being brought in, it's one thing to guard against its spread, and if you have a pocket of community spread.
DeSantis is trying to get on the right of Trump on COVID, but here is proof that Trump gave the power to the states. That's what a president's job is. That is a conservative viewpoint, right? You give all the power to the states. Abortion, COVID, whatever the issue, you give the right to the states. That is the conservative Republican viewpoint. And if DeSantis tries to run to the right of him on COVID and say, hey, look, I would have fired Fauci. No, you wouldn't have. You were just talking. I defer to Dr. Fauci. So I think DeSantis may see a little bump, but yeah, I don't know if he's a controlled op, but I think he's power hungry. He's never held a private sector job. DeSantis has never held a private sector job. I do not trust anybody who's never held a private sector job. All right, here we go. Get back to it.
In Iowa for the hour, we will be taking questions from the audience. And tonight, as the 2024 race heats up, President Trump and other Republican candidates are now crisscrossing the state. And, of course, the former president has a commanding lead in both Iowa and nationally. The GOP field, though, is growing. Last week, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis threw his hat in the ring, and soon we expect that former Vice President Mike Pence will be in. Anti-Trump zealot Chris Christie will join in. But can anyone close the gap? Let's talk about I guess we're up to 9 people after next week.
That's a good thing, isn't it? I think pretty good. But I don't think it matters. I don't know why people are doing it. They're at 1%. Some are at 0. I hear Chris Christie's coming in.
They're doing it for the money.
He was at 6% in New Jersey.
They do it to scam donors, scam big donors, pocket that money, that campaign money, and to sell books.
And he's polling at 0. And others are, I call him Ada Hutchinson. I don't call him Asa. I call him Ada Hutchinson. I gave him a little name for some reason, for certain reasons. But this guy, nobody knows who the hell he is. Never good. And some, it's fine, but I don't understand what they're doing. Now, maybe there's something wrong, but when you're at 1% or less, 1%, it says 1% with an arrow pointing left. There's one guy who's at 0 with an arrow pointing left. That means he's at less than 0. So it is what it is. I really go after the one who's second, and I think the one who's second is going down so much and so rapidly that I don't think he's going to be second that much longer. I think he's going to be third or fourth. He had a very bad day today. He got very angry at the press. You're not allowed to get angry at the press.
Let me.
At the fake news, he got angry.
So you probably became in history the most investigated president of all time.
Times 10.
Okay. So.
But if my poll numbers went down, it would all end. Every time my poll goes up, I say, oh, this is a problem. But we had a poll today that showed I was 44 points above number 2 and beating Biden by 11 points. Beating Biden by 11 points and beating Biden by 15
Somebody
and 16
just
points.
in the chat said pinch
and
Cheney.
He's not doing well against Biden.
Let me ask you, because you are...
Because we can't take a chance of this election.
I think a lot of people agree with that. I don't think things have been as bad, turned so badly so quickly. The third issue is there's a special counsel that's appointed, and news broke yesterday that there might be a tape recording that, quote, where you acknowledge that you understood that these were classified documents. First of all, do you know who this call may be with? Do you know anything about it?
No, I don't know anything about it. All I know is this. Everything I did was right. We have the Presidential Records Act, which I abided by 100%. Biden has 1,850 boxes with a lot of classified stuff that he's not supposed to have. In his case, I have the right to declassify as president. He's got 1,850 boxes that he doesn't want anyone to see. He had 7 or 8 boxes in Chinatown in Washington, D.C., where nobody even speaks English in Chinatown. Chinatown is it's in favor of China. And he has boxes in Chinatown. They took those boxes and they sent them to Boston to his lawyer so his lawyer could look through them and probably do things that you're not supposed to do. No, this is about election interference. And in fact, I have to tell you, Dershowitz and a couple of very good guys wrote an article today. The Tobacco King, you know who the Tobacco King, he did a great job on the tobacco companies. They wrote an article today that this is a disgrace that they're even looking at this stuff. There was nothing done wrong, nothing whatsoever. Now look at the boxes with Biden, where they're in his garage, they're all over the floor, they're sitting under his Corvette with the grease and everything else, on a garage door that you could cut with a scissor, and no Secret Service. I have Secret Service all over the place. Mar-a-Lago is a fort. It's literally, she built that as the Southern White House. But when you look at it, and it's another... it's a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. It's a hoax. And it has to do more than anything else with trying to interfere with the election. And let me tell you, DOJ actually you talk about Bragg, the DA of New York. I never thought I'd be dealing with a guy like this. You talk about Bragg. The DOJ in Washington put his top guy into the DA's office, which is local, which is city, state. But they put the top guy in the Justice Department into that office to make sure Trump gets in trouble. Can you believe it? It's never, ever happened before. And then Hillary Clinton's lawyer from, I guess it's Paul Weiss, left Paul Weiss to work in the prosecutor's office because he hates Trump and he wants to get Trump. And then nobody wanted to do anything because they say, Trump didn't do anything wrong, including Bragg originally said Trump didn't do anything wrong. And then he prosecutes me for what he said was not wrong. But they took this guy, and they put him in there, and he left the firm, and he went in. It's a big, Pomerantz, Mark Pomerantz. And he left to become a prosecutor. He was a Democrat lawyer, and now he's trying to prosecute me. And then what happened is they wouldn't do what he wanted to do because it was too bad even for them. So this guy left and he writes a book during the process. They tell me what he did is criminal. They tell me. Now, let's see what happens. But he's in a lot of trouble. So here's a prosecutor left, and he wrote a book during the prosecution. But I've been going through this for 7 years. Russia, 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 all of it. The Mueller report, which was no collusion. After 2.5 years, there was no collusion with Russia. I was the worst thing. Putin would say, you know, they say you like me. He said, you are the worst guy that we've ever had to deal with. I'm the one that stopped the pipeline, the big pipeline going up to Germany. I stopped it. When Biden came in, it's called Nord Stream 2. When Nord Stream 2, nobody ever heard of it until I came along. I said, you're allowing Russia to build a pipeline through Europe? I stopped it. It was stopped dead. And then the election came about, and Biden came in. One of the first things he did was allow Russia to complete the pipeline. I had it stopped. And then they say, I'll tell you what, they're a party of disinformation. They'll say Trump is soft on Russia. I'm the hardest on Russia that there's ever been. The sanctions we did, everything else. And I got along with Putin.
Let me follow up.
And by the way, the hardest on China by a factor. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. And as I said, no other president ever took in 10 cents. And you know what? China respected us. And President Xi respected your president. And he didn't want to have any more tariffs. And he didn't want to have any more sanctions. But he respected us. And now he doesn't respect. They don't even return phone calls.
You know, abortion now is back as a real campaign issue.
Yeah.
And then issues I didn't think when I started my radio career in 1987 I'd be talking a lot about, but education, kids, gender identity classes, CRT. I never thought we'd really have this deep debate about whether or not biological men could be playing in women's sports.
So crazy.
On all of these issues, you know, what is the best way that you see to settle?
Well, I did something that nobody thought was possible. I got rid of Roe v. Wade. And by doing that, it put pro-lifers in a very strong negotiating position. Now they're negotiating different things. And, you know, I happen
Gave
to
it
be
back
of
to the
the
states.
Ronald Reagan School in terms of exemptions where you have the life of the mother, rape, and
incest, mother's life.
So you have that, and I think, you know, for me, that's something that works very well, and for probably 80, 85%. Because don't forget, we do have to win elections. But I did something that nobody could do, and I also made them the radicals because they are willing and able to kill babies in the 9th month. They're willing to kill babies. That's radical. Pro-life isn't radical. They've made pro-life radical, the other side. Pro-life is not radical. What's radical is killing a baby in the 8th month, the 7th month, the 9th month, or even the babies after the baby's born. And, you know, unfortunately, we have a lot of politicians, and you saw that in the midterms. I think it was a big factor that didn't really know how to talk about what we did with Roe v. Wade and what we did on pro-life. They didn't know how to talk about it. And it energized the Democrats, and they used that. I mean, they used that as a commercial. You wouldn't believe it.
Well, what should the
But especially when you didn't have the exceptions. When you didn't have the exceptions, they went after the people like viciously. The ads, and those people did not, generally speaking, they didn't do very well in terms of election. But when you have the exceptions and you go through the whole gamut, it's something that's an incredible thing. But one thing it really did, though, Sean, is it gave people that are pro-life a great power to negotiate. We had no power to negotiate because you had Roe v. Wade sitting in there where you could do anything, where the other side could do anything. They can't do that right now. So we're in a great position to negotiate something really, really good. And most people, I think, really respect what we did. Now, I will say every once in a while I watch somebody say, I did more for abortion and abortion rights and pro-life. I did more than Trump. Well, only stupid people would say that because everyone said there was no way that Roe v. Wade was going to disappear. But because it was very unfair. The other thing is people wanted to bring it back to the states. I consider that less important, but nevertheless, a lot of people wanted to bring it back. This brings it back to the states.
More with Donald Trump, and we'll hear from our Iowa audience as we continue from the great state of Iowa. Please stay with us.
I thought a town hall was supposed to be the audience participants asking the candidate questions, not the freaking cable news host asking the candidate questions. We had the CNN town hall with Caitlin Collins would just badger Trump, blah, 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 blah. And Trump couldn't get his answer in before she was badgering him again. Now we have Sean Hannity asking every single question. I think these new cable news hosts, they just have a huge ego. They want to get their own questions in. Or maybe the network told them to do it. I don't know, but I don't like it. I don't like it. Take a look at our boy Rhino Ron DeSanctimonious in New Hampshire today. Apparently he exploded on a reporter. I haven't seen this.
Any questions from voters, Governor? Governor, how come you're not taking questions from voters?
Not coming up to me, talk to me. What are you talking about? I'm not here murdering with people. Are you blind? Are you blind?
I'm not blind.
Okay, so people are coming up to me, talking to me, whatever they want to talk to me about.
Why not take any questions from voters?
Oh, he's got... Rhino Ron has got a temper. Robbie DeSanctimonious has got a temper. This is going to get toasty. This campaign season is going to get fire. It is going to be toasty. Rhino Ron DeSanctimonious or Rob DeSanctus, whatever you want to call him, it is going to get toasty. Let's take another look at this. Look at his eyes. You see the anger and hatred in his eyes. He is cracking like a Ritz freaking cookie cracker with some cream cheese on it. Ron DeSanctimonious is toast.
Governor, how come you're not taking questions from voters?
Not coming up to me, talk to me. What are you talking about? I'm not here murdering with people. Are you blind? Are you blind?
I'm not blind.
Okay, so people are coming up to me, talking to me, whatever they want to talk to me about.
Why not take any
Are
questions?
you blind? Are you blind? Ronnie the Rat. He is angry. DeSantis has a mental breakdown. Yeah. I don't know. I think he's done a good job in Florida, but who couldn't do a good job in Florida? You got the freaking ocean. Both oceans, the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean and Disney World. You got the biggest tourist attractions in the world with no state income tax. How could you not run a good state if you're the governor of Florida? All you got to do is sit down, shut up, sit back and relax and rake in the money, the revenue. I think my 9-year-old son could do a good job as governor of Florida. It's a lot different to run the United States. Florida, no state income taxes, so all these businesses are going to flood there. You have the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. People are going to vacation there. Northerners are going to want to come spend the winter there because they don't want to freeze their balls off. And then you have, it just doesn't make, it's completely different. Running Florida versus running the United States. Dealing with Putin and dealing with Disney are two different things. He's getting his tail whooped. He's getting his ass kicked by Disney. The Gulf, the Pacific. I failed geography. Yeah, but old Robbie DeSanctis is fighting with Disney. What's that guy's name? Runs Disney. He's getting beat up by Disney. And Trump's dealing with Xi Jinping and Putin. Ronald Spaghetti without the meatballs. Meatball Ron. I would never call him that. Rhino Ronnie says he will pardon. Well, hopefully President Trump can pardon himself if he needs to do that. I wouldn't trust the snake Robbie DeSanctis. Oh, Ruth, I think Trump is 100% going to be charged by both the Biden DOJ and Fulton County prosecutor Fannie Willis. I live in Georgia. I grew up in Gwinnett County, which is close to Fulton County. And Fulton County's completely woke, and she's going to charge him. I don't think he'll be convicted. I think it'll probably be a hung jury, but I'd be shocked if she didn't charge him.
Well, thank you for being here. Now, according to a recent Harvard-Harris poll, the majority of Americans now believe, quote, Joe Biden was involved with his son in what is an illegal influence peddling scheme. And yet, as far as we know, despite a mountain of evidence, now the FBI had Hunter's laptop since December of 2019. The FBI and the DOJ, they refused to investigate, quote, the big guy who Hunter complained he had to give half his income to. And on the other hand, there is no shortage of witch hunts against Donald Trump, which we were talking about a little bit in the last segment. Now, the 45th president of the United States is back with us for reaction to all of that. This goes to the heart of Jim Jordan's investigation. Is the FBI politicized? Is the DOJ weaponized? James Comer's committee looking into whether or not the Biden family, in fact, we know that Joe lied when he said in a debate with you and said it to other press people when he said, I've never talked to my son about his foreign business dealings. We've got photographic evidence. We have dates and times of meetings. We now have, according to James Comer, routing plans to different LLCs, and money's going to 9 separate Biden family members. And they're looking for one particular document where $5 million was exchanged for an act that they claim that Joe Biden may have committed in exchange for this deal. Yet how come nothing happens to them?
Well, they're being protected, and it's a one-sided system. It's a very unfair system, but they're being protected. Look at the time that Biden said about the $1 billion to get rid of the prosecutor. Now, can you imagine if I said that? $1 billion to get rid of the prosecutor. You talk about tape. That's on tape. That's so illegal, what he said. It's America's money. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you get rid of the prosecutor that was prosecuting his son and his son's company, even though his son didn't know anything about energy or anything else, and he's on the board of an energy company, getting paid a fortune, by the way. No, the whole thing is crazy what's going on, and it's so bad because it makes them look so bad. You know, we talk about borders, we talk about elections, but you can add our justice system. If it's corrupt, if the people think, if there's any perception of being corrupt, and when you look at all of this criminality, like the laptop has so much stuff on it, it's so bad, it's so evil, and yet they don't want to do anything. It even affected the impeachment, because impeachment hoax number 1 and 2, if they read the laptop and they had the laptop, should not have proceeded, because I was right, and it should not have proceeded. A lot of people said that, but it is a dual system of government. There's a dual system of... you talk about law and order. You can't have law and order in a country where you have such corruption. And the corruption is... and they fight so hard not to give the papers. Yeah. With me, they make up papers. They fight so hard not to give a document. Now, how bad can this document be? And it's very dangerous. I think it's a third point, but it's very dangerous for our country.
Well, Comer said to me on radio today, he has the document. He said it on TV last night.
By the way, he's doing a great job, and Jim Jordan they're doing a fantastic job.
Let me ask you one question. I've asked you this question before, and it comes up a lot. People know that I've interviewed you all these years. I've known you almost 30 years. And people ask me and say to him, why does he have to fight so hard? Why doesn't he pick his fights a little more? Why does he have to call people names? And the only reason I think this is an important question is because I think everyone here tonight is likely voting for you, right? So, however, it's going to come down to those people that maybe are in the middle a little more. And the argument that they make to me is, if he would just tone it down a hair, stop a little of the name calling. Hang on. I said it's their question. Leave me alone. All right. That it might help you with swing voters that are needed for you to get over the finish line. It's already hard enough electoral vote-wise for a Republican to win. What do you say to them?
Okay, you ready? And I say this to everybody. I won an election. It was unprecedented. We beat somebody that supposedly had it made, and, you know, they probably did things in that election, too. They were shocked. But I came into office, and from the day I got in, I was under siege by people that have been in Washington for many years, put in there by many different presidents, in most cases, people that were against me. Like, they spied on my campaign. They did all sorts of things. I was under investigation and under siege, and so were my people. And if I wasn't tough, I wouldn't be here right now, I guarantee you that. If I didn't fight back, I wouldn't be here. What they did is so bad, and they've been caught. Now, so far, nothing's happened to them of consequence. We had an Attorney General, Bill Barr, who didn't have the courage to fight. He just didn't have the courage. He was a nice man, but he didn't have the courage. He lost his courage when they wanted to impeach him. They said, we're going to impeach Bill Barr. They didn't even know why. There was no reason to impeach him. He didn't do anything wrong. But he didn't have the courage. We need courage in this country, or we're going to lose our country.
All right, I'll tell you what. You can stand up if you want or sit down, whatever you prefer. Hi, sir. What's your name?
Mike Etheridge.
All right, Mike, is it?
Mike.
Hi, Mike. You have a question for President Trump.
I like
do.
that, by the way. I think I'm going to like this question. Look at that.
I'm
Look at
going
that
to
shirt.
say yes.
Thank you.
He's making money off your name, just so you know.
Okay, I'm going to. We're not
somebody
gonna
is.
sue. I'm not going to sue him.
My question is, from the time that you left office until now, and in fact, in my case, it happened very quickly. I am a veteran. I use the VA. I was getting in to see a doctor 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
From the time you left, and this is within a month, the next time was 8 months.
Yeah, I know. They let the system break. Are you talking about the VA?
I am.
So we had a 92% approval rating. Nobody's ever come close. I think the highest was 51, and it was many years ago. We had a 92% with the VA. And I did two things that were really, we had great people at the top. We had a lot of great people. You know, we talk about the bad ones, but we had a lot of great people, and they did a fantastic job. When you get a 92% rating, and I really appreciate that you say it, what happened with the VA is they had a lot of very bad people in the VA, sadists, very sick people that were really, they were beating up and hurting our people, and you couldn't do anything about it. And I got through Congress an act where we can fire those people. We got rid of 7,000 really bad people. But the other thing of equal importance, maybe more important, if you had to wait, like you said, you had to wait, under my system, if you had to wait more than a day, as you know, you would go to a private hospital or you would go to a private doctor, and they would take care of you. And people weren't dying. You know, people were dying waiting online. They were waiting for 6 months. They became terminally ill for something where a simple procedure or a simple prescription could have taken care of it. And if they had to wait for more than 24 hours, I gave them the right to go to a private doctor. We paid the bill. We negotiated with them. We had certain set prices because otherwise, you know, it wouldn't be good. And we had the highest rating. That's why the veterans love Trump. We did a great job. It's so nice that you say it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. All right, I understand. Sir, what's your name?
My name's Tony, retired USAF Lieutenant Colonel, volunteer for a number of senior organizations, to include AARP, full disclosure.
Great.
High inflation. We have a Medicare system that is severely lacking funding, running out of funding.
Right.
We have a trust fund in Social Security that's going broke. Yeah. Across Iowa, serious concerns for seniors. What's your envision? What can you do? How can we solve these problems and get them done?
So inflation is a killer of countries. If you look back 200 years, you could look back to empires where inflation came. The empires all dissolved. They were all gone. Inflation is it's a cancer to a country. We are going to stop inflation. We still have way high inflation, the highest in 52 years. And they're saying, oh, we're doing better because it's down to 5%. 5% is a lot. But we were heading up, and we could head up right now with what's going on. We could head up very, very much higher. But we're going to drill. We're going to bring energy way down. When energy comes down, other things are going to. That's what caused the inflation in the first place. We're going to bring energy down. We're going to then bring interest rates down because interest rates, people can't buy homes. They can't borrow money. They can't do anything now. I mean, right now, our economy is a total mess, and we'll stop it. And when we stop inflation, and when we get interest rates down, and when we do all of the things that we have to do, including, again, I rebuilt our military, but we have to rebuild it again. You know, our military has no ammunition. We have no ammunition. We've given much of it, almost all of it, but we've given much of it to Ukraine. And we want to help people, but I want to stop the war. I don't want that war to continue. And I'll stop that war, mark my words, I'll stop that war in 24 hours. But we're in a position.
Mr. President, let me ask. Serious question. How do you stop that war in 24 hours?
I know both. And frankly, Zelensky was very good because he was part of the phone call. And he said, he didn't say anything wrong to me, the Democrat. He could have gone and grandstand and said, well, I felt threatened. I felt threatened. He didn't. I get along with him. I get along with Putin. It would have been much easier to stop it before it started. Putin would have never done this. It would have been much easier. Right now, it's a mess. Now they're hitting Kiev, and they're hitting all sorts of things that weren't supposed to be hit. The country is being decimated. By the way, the deaths are far more than their report. You know, when they say 9 apartment houses got knocked down and 2 people got hurt. No, hundreds of people died. The numbers are much different than what you're being told. I will get them into a room and they will, and I know an exact way. Number one, you tell one, you're not going to get anything unless you make a deal. You tell the other one, they're going to get a lot unless you make a deal. And you just sit them and you put them in, and you have to make a determination. And I'm telling you, within 24 hours, that whole thing will be settled. It'll be settled. And you need the power of the Oval Office. You do. You can't just walk in and say, oh, I'm going to settle the deal. You need the power of the presidency. It was a war that should have never, ever started. It's a horrible war. It's a vicious. I saw it today where missiles are going into cities, in this case, Kiev, and you see the school children going to school and missiles are following them. The whole thing is horrible. I will have that settled in 24 hours. People say, oh, you can't. It's just like when I hear the sanctimonious come and say, we need 8 years. Again, if he needs 8 years, don't vote for him. I'll have that. This country will be hopping in 6 months, and a lot of it's going to do with energy and energy costs. It'll be hopping in 6 months and less than 6 months, but it'll be back.
Thank you, Iowa, for being here.
Thank you, buddy. We all know Mark.
Was that it? Did they just let 2 audience members ask questions and the rest of the time was milk toast Sean Hannity asking the questions? 2 audience questions? And I think he did a good job. I liked all his answers, but I wish it was more audience questions. I wish it wasn't Sean Milk Toast Hannity asking all the damn questions. Woke Fox News. And I do want to address one thing. The argument that DeSantis being not loyal to Trump is not a problem. The DeSantis Twitter shills are saying, oh, this loyalty argument, it doesn't mean anything. Can you imagine if Gavin Newsom from California came out tomorrow and said, I'm running against President Biden? No chance. This is why Republicans lose elections, because they are disloyal. They are chasing power like Robbie, Meatball Ron DeSantis. They are chasing power and not chasing actual true agendas. Whether you hate them or like them, the woke liberal libtards, they have an agenda that they're trying to get past. They're trying to shove this woke propaganda down all of our throats. And they are united. Nobody's going to run against Biden unless he steps down. And nobody should be running against Trump because he is the leader of the Republican Party. He's the leader of the GOP. But you have people who are not loyal because it's not about an agenda. I think with Trump, it actually is about an agenda. I think he was making billions of dollars in the real estate game, selling his name to put on businesses and buildings, office buildings, apartment buildings. He didn't need to be president of the United States. Ron DeSantis does need to be president of the United States. What do you guys in the chat think? Thanks for being here tonight. What do you guys think? How did Trump do tonight? Nobody's got anything to say? I don't know if that's it. I don't know if it's over. Seemed awfully sudden. Seemed like an awfully sudden ending right there to me. I bet the Fox News execs got in his ear. The Fox News execs, Paul Ryan called from the boardroom, said, cut it off. Cut it off. Freaking woke hacks over at Fox News. If that's it. They literally had 2 audience members. Yeah, Junior, I agree. He did good. He did good. That was not what I was expecting. CNN had more audience questions than Fox News. That's why I watch Newsmax. If on your way out, guys, if that's it, if you could hit the like button on your way out, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. We're putting out a lot of good content, putting a lot of time and energy into the channel, trying to take on yeah, that's right, Carl. It was pre-recorded. You're correct. So apparently it wasn't Paul Ryan in the boardroom calling in, saying to end it. But if you could hit the like button on your way out, subscribe to the channel. I love you guys. Trump 2024. Peace.